So in the previous lecture of the AC voltmeter, we have discussed that if we have a DC voltmeter, then how we can calibrate the DC scale for the measurement of the AC voltage. And for that we have defined a form factor. That form factor for the sine wave. This form factor is different for a different shape of the signal. So if we have the sine wave, then the form factor is given by k is equal to a 1.11. Actually, what is the form factor? Form factor is a ratio of the RMS voltage of the AC signal to the average value of the AC signal. And we have calculated that what is the form factor for the sine wave. If we have the square wave, or if they have the square wave, then the form factor is a 1. And for a triangle wave, or you can say for a sweep voltage, the form factor is given by 1.155. So what it means that if we know the form factor of a particular wave, then whatever the DC scale we have here, if we have a 0 to a 10 volt of a DC range is there, then this DC range you can calibrate for the measurement of the AC voltage. So suppose if you are measuring a sine wave, now for the sine wave the form factor is 1.11, means on a DC scale wherever the 1 is there, it is actually representing a AC voltage of 1.1 volt. And if we have 5 volt of DC, it is corresponding to a 5.55 volt of AC RMS value. And same way, if we have a 10 volt, then this is representing 11.1 volt of RMS. These are the RMS value. So in this way, the DC scale can be calibrated for the measurement of the AC. And if you have a triangle wave, then you can multiply with the 1.155 and you can measure the AC voltage. But now the question is that here we know what is the shape of the signal. But if the signal doesn't have any kind of a regular shape, if my signal is irregular, or if the signal is not a kind of a periodic. Means if we take this example, that here, suppose I want to measure this a audio signal. This is my audio signal. Now, here you can say that it is a complex signal. Audio signal is a kind of a complex signal. Why it is a complex signal? Because the number of the frequency are present with the different amplitude. So here we cannot calculate the RMS value. We do not know what is the RMS value. We do not know what is the average value of this complex signal. And therefore we cannot measure a form factor. Correct? Because it is a irregular shape and it is also not a periodic one. So here it is difficult to find out the form factor. If the form factor is not known to you, then you cannot measure this voltage directly. So here it is difficult to measure the RMS voltage of this kind of the signal. So what is the RMS voltage? How we can measure this RMS voltage? So here you cannot have a direct measurement of the RMS, but the indirect method is there. And in the indirect method, we are not measuring this VRMS, but we will measure some other quantity, and the other quantity is proportional to your RMS voltage. Correct? And how we can measure this indirectly? So for that you should know what is the meaning of the RMS voltage. What do you mean by the RMS voltage? Correct? So let us say, first of all we will clear about the RMS. So now then it will be very easy to understand the principle of the true RMS voltmeter. So normally we say that the RMS means it is a root mean square value. Correct? But what is the root mean square? It is a mathematical procedure for finding the RMS value. Means we take a square and find a mean and take under root. So, but this is possible only if we have a kind of a periodic wave or if we know the shape of the signal. But actually the RMS is representing what? RMS is related with a heat. It is related with the power dissipation of the component. So here suppose if I will take a example of a resistance. Correct? This is a resistance R is there. If we pass a DC current, remember, here first of all I am passing a DC current. So due to this DC current, there will be some power dissipation. So this power dissipation will be equal to, we can write a I square DC into R, or also we can write a V square by R. Using this formula, we can calculate the power dissipation. Now when this current is passing through the resistance, power is dissipated in the form of the heat and the temperature of the resistance is going to change. Okay. Now let us say when I am passing some DC current, this power dissipation is a 1 watt in the resistance. Now instead of DC, I am going to pass some AC current. And here I will either increase or decrease the value of the AC current such that again the power dissipation across the resistance comes out to be a 1 watt. So what it means? That when we pass the DC current, power dissipation is 1 watt, and if we pass the AC current, in that case also the power dissipation is 1 watt. Means that RMS value here, RMS value of this AC current is equivalent to a DC. Means either you pass a DC or you pass AC, in both the case the power dissipation has to be same. So here, so actually if you take a example of a bulb, then in the bulb when you apply the AC voltage, remember here if you have the bulb and I am connecting to the AC voltage. So basically what should happen in the bulb? That whenever we have a positive voltage, then the intensity of the bulb should go on increasing, and then when the negative cycle will come or it is go on changing, then the intensity of the bulb should go on decreasing. But we know that whatever the intensity of the bulb is there, it is going to remain constant. Means whatever the power is dissipated in the bulb, it is not accordingly to a kind of a sine wave. Otherwise what will happen? The intensity of the bulb is go on increasing, then it will go on decreasing. But we are finding the intensity is remain constant, means whatever the power is dissipated in the bulb is not according to a peak value of the AC signal or not according to the average value of the AC signal. That power is dissipated in the bulb according to some other value, and that is known as a RMS value. Correct? So RMS value is something to do with the power dissipation. Means either you pass a AC or DC, in both the case if the power dissipation is same, then we can say that the RMS value of this AC signal is equal to a DC. Correct? So here we can write the power dissipation is a V square RMS by R if we have the AC. Now second thing, whenever the power is going to be dissipated, then the temperature of the resistance is changed. So power is dissipating in the form of the heat, and therefore we can say whatever the heat is going to be produced, it is proportional to V square RMS. Remember that heat is going to produce, a heat is proportional to a square of the RMS value. Okay? Means here if I want to measure the RMS value, then instead of measuring the RMS directly, I can measure what is the heat. Heat means we can measure the temperature, and you can calibrate in terms of the RMS voltage. So this is the basic principle of a true RMS voltmeter, where that we are measuring a heat dissipation instead of measuring directly a RMS voltage. Correct? Now the question is how to measure this heat, or how to measure the temperature. Correct? Because so here the temperature will be also proportional to a V square RMS. Correct? So we have to sense the temperature of the resistance, and we have a number of the sensors available in the market. You can use a thermistor, you can use a thermocouple. So a number of the devices are there, but the thermocouple is widely used for the measuring the temperature. So let us see what is a thermocouple. Thermocouple is made up of a two dissimilar metal, and it has a two junction. One of the junction is at a cold temperature, and another junction is at a hot temperature. So due to this difference in the temperature, the EMF is going to be produced in the thermocouple. So here if we have a one of the metal like this, means it's a kind of a wire. And another metal is there, and it is also connected to this. So here we have this junction, here also we have this junction. So it is a two junction. Let us say this junction is in a ice, so you can say it is a cold junction. And if this is connected to a water, hot water, then you can say it is a hot junction. So if the temperature of the hot junction is T2 and the temperature of the cold junction is T1, then due to the difference in the temperature, here the EMF is going to be produced, and that EMF is going to be passed in the thermocouple wire. So here if you connect a meter here at this point, then the meter will give you the deflection, and that is known as a thermo EMF, or sometimes it is also written as E. Correct? And this EMF is going to be produced like this, and you can measure this EMF. Now, as the temperature difference is increasing between the hot junction and cold junction, then the EMF value will also increase. If you plot this graph, then the temperature against the EMF, then the characteristics is like this. You can see that as the temperature is increasing, then the EMF is also go on increasing in this region. And at particular temperature, we have a maximum EMF. So basically it is known as a neutral temperature. And then here, this is known as a neutral temperature. Then again, if we increase the temperature, then the EMF is go on decreasing. Correct? So here the thermocouple is sensing the temperature, and correspondingly the EMF is going to be produced. But here what we have a kind of a difficulty, that whatever the characteristics is there, this characteristics is a non-linear characteristics. If it is a linear characteristic, then it is very easy to find out the relation between the temperature and the voltage. But it has a non-linear characteristics, and therefore to cancel out this non-linear characteristic, we have to use a two thermocouple. So actually here if we see that whatever the EMF is going to be produced, it is produced due to the difference of these two temperatures, or the V is proportional to a delta T. And in our case, what is the delta T? And delta T is proportional to what we can write? It is proportional to V square RMS. Remember, here in case of the resistance, the temperature was changing, and that is proportional to a V square RMS. So in a thermocouple, if you are measuring the temperature, then this temperature will be EMF of the thermocouple will be proportional to a V square RMS. So in this way, instead of measuring RMS value of your complex signal, if you measure the EMF of the thermocouple and you can calibrate this voltage in terms of the RMS, you can measure the RMS value. Correct? So whatever the EMF is going to be produced, it will be independent of the shape of the signal. So this is the basic principle of a true RMS voltmeter, where we are using a thermocouple. Now let us see a block diagram of such a true RMS voltmeter. So first of all, you can see we are using a two thermocouple. This is known as a measuring thermocouple, and this one is known as a balancing thermocouple. Just I already mentioned why we have to use the two thermocouple, because the thermocouple has a non-linear characteristic, and to cancel out this, we have to use another thermocouple. Okay. Now, whatever the AC voltage we want to measure, this AC voltage, first of all, it is given to a amplifier circuit, because sometimes our AC signal is very small. If it is in order of a microvolt, millivolt, then it is not able to produce a sufficient heat, and therefore here we require a amplifier circuit. It will be a kind of a power amplifier, remember. And the output of the amplifier is connected to a resistance. Now value of this resistance will be very small, so that the power dissipation will be a larger one. Correct? So here the resistance is there. Then here we have a kind of an enclosure where the thermocouple and the resistance are there. So this thermocouple is connected to a resistance. So here if you have the resistance like this, then the thermocouple point is exactly touching to the body of the resistance, so that it can measure the temperature of the resistance. Then the output of the thermocouple is given to a DC amplifier. Then the output of the DC amplifier is connected to a galvanometer, and here we have a kind of a feedback. So in the feedback, again one more resistance is connected, and the another thermocouple is also connected with this resistance. So now let us see how we can measure this RMS voltage. So first of all, if we look at this diagram, then the two thermocouples are there. Initially, when you are not applying any signal, then both the thermocouple are in the same environment. Means the temperature of this and the temperature of this thermocouple is same. So whatever the EMF is going to be produced by this thermocouple, that is called a measuring thermocouple. The same voltage will be also produced by this thermocouple. So here suppose the initial voltage of the thermocouple is V, and here also the initial voltage of the thermocouple is V, because both are at the same temperature. And these two thermocouples are a part of the balance bridge circuit. Balance bridge amplifier circuit. Remember, the DC amplifier is there. So here whatever the voltage is going to generate, it is a DC voltage. But it is amplifying the difference of these two voltage. So V minus V, so the difference is going to be a 0. And therefore the galvanometer deflection will be also a 0. So this is the initial condition of a true RMS voltmeter. Now, when we applied a AC voltage of any shape, remember, here actually what is the advantage? That the advantage of this meter is there that you can apply any kind of a wave, complex signal, correct? So this AC signal is going to be amplified by this amplifier circuit, and that amplified signal is going to be appeared across the resistance. And if this is a power amplifier, so large amount of the current is going to be produced here, and this large amount of the current is going to be passed across the resistance. So here there will be a heat. Heat is going to be generated, and heat is going to be generated means the temperature is not now remain T, but it is going to be a T1. So due to this change in the temperature, EMF produced in this thermocouple, measuring thermocouple, is now instead of V1, it will be a V1. Try to understand that when we apply the AC signal, it is going to be amplified. Due to this amplified signal, there will be a flow of a current in the resistance. So due to this current, the heat is going to be produced, and due to the heat, the temperature of the body, temperature of the resistance is going to be changed. It is going to be increased. So the EMF of this measuring thermocouple is also going to increase, and it become a V1. Remember, it is going to be a V1. Now here the bridge is going to be unbalanced. Remember, initially both the thermocouple was in the same temperature. Now they are unbalanced. So there is a difference between these two voltage. There is a difference between these two voltage, and that is going to be amplified by the amplifier circuit. So whatever the output voltage is going to be produced here, due to this output voltage, there will be a flow of the current will be there. Remember, now this current is passing through one more resistance. So here again the temperature of this, because there will be a power dissipation. So here the power dissipation will be there, and due to this the temperature of this resistance is going to increase. So the EMF produced in this thermocouple will also change. Now it become a V2. So the difference between the V1 and V2 is going to decrease. So again, according to the difference of this, output voltage will be there, and it will pass a current, and then again the power dissipation will be there. So this process will be continued till both the temperature is going to be same, or both the EMF is going to be same. Remember. So again here whatever the feedback is there, this feedback current is producing a heat, and that heat will be corresponding to heat produced by your input signal. Correct? So when this will be same, V1 and V2 is going to be same, then whatever the output voltage you have across the output of the amplifier circuit, this output voltage will be proportional to a RMS voltage of your input signal. Here remember, this output voltage will be proportional to a RMS voltage. So here we are not measuring the RMS voltage directly, but your AC signal produces the temperature, produces the heat, it produces the EMF, and that is going to be measured by this amplifier circuit. Correct? So now let us prove that whatever the voltage are generated output voltage, it is proportional to my RMS voltage. So here we have a differential amplifier, and the output of the differential amplifier is given as a, or you can say, the gain of the differential amplifier is A is equal to a output voltage divided by V2 minus V1. That because it is a amplifying the difference between these two voltage. So we can say the V2 minus V1 is VO divided by A. But here the differential amplifier is that the gain of the differential amplifier is very large. So here we can say it is going to be infinite. So the difference V2 minus V1 is equal to 0. Or we can say that the V1 is equal to V2. V1 is equal to V2. Now what is V1? This V1 voltage is going to be produced due to your RMS voltage of the input signal. Remember, it is going to produce due to this RMS voltage of the input signal. So here we can write V square RMS. And whatever the V2 voltage is there, it is produced due to the output voltage of your amplifier circuit. So here we can say K into VO square. Correct? And therefore the VRMS is equal to VO. So here in this meter, whatever the output voltage we have, it is indicating a RMS voltage of your input signal. Correct? So this is known as a true RMS voltmeter. So the advantage of this true RMS voltmeter, that instead of a sine wave or a square wave, you can apply any kind of a AC signal and you can measure the RMS voltage. Now, this can measure the RMS voltage of a very high frequency also. Remember, here we are not using a kind of a active devices. So if you have the active device, then it has a certain bandwidth. So it cannot measure a RMS voltage of a very high frequency. So here you can measure the RMS voltage of a high frequency, as well as you can also measure a very small amplitude of the signal, because at the input the AC amplifier is there. So if your input signal is in order of a few microvolt or a millivolt, then also you can produce the output voltage due to this amplifier. So these are the advantage of a true RMS voltmeter. Right? Let us say some AC voltmeter, electronics AC voltmeter, where we can use a operational amplifier. So already mentioned that whenever you want to measure the AC voltage, then the AC signal has to be converted into a DC. So whatever the voltmeter circuit we have, always there will be a kind of a one rectifier circuit will be there. So if we see a simple circuit for this, then you can have a diode at the input. Okay. So here we have a simple circuit. So you can see at the input we apply the AC voltage and the diode is there, so it is working as a rectifier circuit. So this is my half-wave rectifier is there. Remember, this diode is working as a half-wave rectifier. So if your input signal is a sine wave, at this point you can have a kind of this. It is given to the operational amplifier. Now already you know the operational amplifier has a very high input impedance. The gain is also very high. But here in this case, we are connecting a meter in a feedback path. So the gain of this amplifier is a unity. Here this is a unity gain amplifier is there. So whatever the DC voltage is we applied at the input, correspondingly there will be a flow of the current in this meter. This is a feedback resistance, but it is a gain of the amplifier is a unity. So as the input voltage will increase, then the current in the meter will also increase or decrease, and you can measure the AC voltage. So this is one of the simple method. But what is the disadvantage here? The disadvantage is that when we have a diode at the input, then always there will be a drop across the diode. We know that in a silicon, if you have a silicon diode, then the drop will be around about a 0.6. If it is a germanium, so around about a 0.3. So if my input voltage here, whatever the input voltage is there, if it is in order of a millivolt or a microvolt, then you cannot measure the voltage. Because the input signal is millivolt, then the diode is not going to be a conductor. So you will not get any output voltage. So here, if you have the rectifier before amplifier, then you cannot measure the small amount of the voltage. And for that, we have another type of the meter, so where the rectifier is going to be here. You can see another circuit is there. So the rectifier is in the feedback path. Here the rectifier is at the input path. Now if you look at this circuit, then first of all we have a attenuator circuit. Already you know these are the chain of the resistance is nothing but it is a attenuator circuit. Now what is the function of the attenuator circuit? That it will expand the range of the meter. So if this my smallest range is of a 1 millivolt, then the next range can be a 10 millivolt. This is a 100 millivolt. Here you can have a 1 volt. So you can calculate the value of the resistance R1, R2, R3 using a potential divider rule, and you can expand the range of this meter. So that is the initially we have the attenuator circuit, so we can measure the small voltage as well as the larger voltage. Then the blocking capacitor is there. So suppose if your AC voltage contains some DC, then this capacitor will block the DC. Only the AC is going to be passed through this capacitor. Your DC voltage is going to be blocked, and therefore it is known as the blocking capacitor. Then this DC voltage is applied at the input of this amplifier circuit. So if the signal amplitude is very small, then due to the amplifier, it is going to be amplified. And in the output, we have a kind of a rectifier circuit. So this is the rectifier circuit, and here we have a filter circuit. So in the feedback part, remember, in the feedback part, the rectifier circuit is there. And in the feedback part, also whatever the voltage is going to be there, it is measured by this meter M. So whenever the meter is in a feedback part, so whatever the non-linearity of the diode is there, it is going to be minimized. Because we know that when my input voltage is very small, then the relation between the current and voltage in the diode is a non-linear. But if we apply a connected to a negative feedback, this is a kind of a negative feedback, and a huge amount of the feedback is there, so the gain will be a small. Remember, here the gain of the amplifier is going to be a small, and therefore this circuit, due to a large negative feedback, the amplifier is stabilized. We know that if the gain is small, then it is a more stable. So when we have a positive voltage at the input, positive cycle will be there, then here it will produce a large amount of the positive voltage. Due to that, this diode D will be in a forward bias. And whenever we have a negative voltage, then in that case, this diode will be in a forward bias. Then whatever the two capacitors are there, so it is going to be filtered out the AC component of your rectifier circuit, and therefore you can measure the average value of AC signal. So this is also known as a average responding meter. Remember, the circuit is working as a average responding meter. So in this way, we can use the operational amplifier. Here we are not discussing the circuit of the op-amp because already we are familiar with the operational amplifier and the application of the operational amplifier. But the thing is that you have to remember that if we have a rectifier before the operational amplifier, it cannot measure the small voltage. So if we have a rectifier after the operational amplifier, so it can amplify the signal and you can measure the small amount of the voltage. So this circuit we use the filter, and therefore it is measuring the average value of the signal. Here this is going to measure the RMS value of the signal.